Good morning, good morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and I have an incredible show for you today. I love when I talk backstage with a guest and I get a little bit of an inspiration or idea of what today's show is going to look like. And just by speaking to our guests, I know you're going to learn a lot and you're going to have some fun today. But before I go ahead and introduce today's guest, I'm going to ask you to do what I asked you to do every day of the week, Monday through Friday, and that is to go out and be an evangelist for the Roundtable Talk Show. I'm pretty sure there's an entrepreneur or a business owner within your network, within your circle, maybe in your house, or maybe they're a coworker, but they need this information. They need to learn how to market their business, grow their business, be more productive, and how to have a wonderful personal life while trying to grow your business. But they won't have this information unless you go ahead and share the show, because always, like I say, friends don't let friends miss out on the Roundtable Talk Show. So while you're going ahead and sharing the show, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest. You have seen this young man here before. He was a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show a couple of months ago, and we had so much fun. He decided to come back and share with us more information. My angel, RIBO. Angel, known as the CEO Confident, is an influencer, LinkedIn strategist, international TV host, public speaker, CEO consultant, board member, and philanthropist. In the last 21 years, Angel has empowered more than 1,500 CEOs in 33 different countries. He was born near Barcelona, and he has lived in 8 countries and speaks 5 languages. Good morning, Angel. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. I'm extremely well after the Easter holiday, and let me tell you, I'm totally addicted to the Ask Sharifa show. And for the ones that don't know or don't remember, last week was Sharifa's birthday. So again, happy birthday. I know that you like partying, so I'm sure that you're still in the aftermath of your birthday parties. Are you not, Sharifa?
I'm actually back to being awake. I think this is the first day on Monday where I was like, you know what, Sharifa, you have to actually work, because I haven't read an email since last Monday.
Oh, there you go. So thank you for having me again. And obviously, thank you everybody who's listening to us today.
Yes. Well, for those who don't know, who are you, Angel, and what are you passionate about?
Thank you. Yeah, I would say that I'm passionate about connecting the unconnected. You already described very well, you know, what my bio is. Basically, what I like to do every single day is to help both corporate CEOs and accomplished entrepreneurs to bridge the gap globally for expansion and exposure as a way to accelerate the growth of their businesses. And I lived, as you said, in many countries, and I lived in Latin America for many years, and I worked there for many years, although I'm originally from Spain. And I actually, you know, found that I saw so much poverty there that I actually started my foundation. It's called Wisdom for Kids, and we help underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs using the local resources. That's why, as you see, you know, I've been blessed enough to work with, you know, the most powerful people in the world in 3 different continents, and also work with the most underprivileged. So that's why I always consider myself to be the connector of the unconnected. And I'm a pretty upbeat guy, and I use that energy and that passion just to make sure that I do my best to keep that connection, to create that connection, and to keep that connection in different ways and forms of business. And being here is amazing, because you know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. Well, I do know already how you do it, but you bring amazing people every single day. So really, congratulations for every single thing that you do every single day, because you bring joy to this world. And these days, you know, it's April 2021. Joy is so necessary. And, you know, people that are out there and want to be entertained and need to listen something different, so they get more hope and joy and reasons to be happy that day. That's amazing. And you do that every single day, Sharifa.
Thank you, Angel. I appreciate that. I receive that into my spirit. But it's the amazing people that come to the show and they just show how amazing they are. And I haven't met anyone that I wasn't just impressed with and just inspired by. But I use this as an opportunity because so many people, being a business consultant, will come to me and they'll give me these reasons on why they can't be successful. They'll give me their journey. They'll give me their story. And I'm like, no, let me introduce you to this person and that person and show you all the people who have become successful despite of their journey, and their struggles. So that's all I do. One of the things I love about what you do, Angel, is something I've talked about over the last year. The CEOs are the ones who put on that front and that face. They tell the employees, everything is going to be okay. Everything is fine. We're going to stay in business. And then they have to go to someone like yourself to go, oh my God, what is going on in the world? So they need someone to speak to. Would you say, Angel?
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And obviously they have had to carry a lot on their shoulders for the last, let's say, 12 to 14 months, lots of things happening, lots of things going on, and then a lot of responsibility, right? And also at the same time, as you know, I mean, they also have to go back to their shareholders. They have to go back to their board and they have to present their results. Very often I make that comparison that, very often CEOs feel like going to the principal's office at least once a quarter to present their results, right? And they have to, like it or not, this is what we did the last 3 months, right? If it's not more often, very often it's more often actually. But it's true. So they carry a lot. And I think that the most successful out there, they have their own support systems. And I'm part of that support system. That's why when I started my journey, 5 years ago, I started with this brand. And I would say that probably the main difference between the most, maybe successful is the right word to say, but the ones that have been able to prepare their teams the better during the last 14 months have been the ones that have really focused on not only keeping them, right? Not only keeping them and not making them leave their companies, but also training them and preparing them for what's coming. I think that's extremely important. You cannot really keep your employees accountable and expecting that they're going to be engaged with you and with the rest of the team if you don't give them, enough education. And I've seen companies investing a lot of money for training their employees last year. And I think that's really a great thing to do. And that also applies to small business owners. I think that we all acknowledge the fact that things have changed in the world. And if they have changed, we also have to change ourselves to be able to treat them better and to make a better experience with our clients and with our internal teams, and make sure that they provide their clients, the best experience possible.
Absolutely. And that's what we want to do. Angel, I am going to come back to you. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, the incredible Michelle Diamond. Michelle is CEO and founder of Elevate Diamond Strategy, a growth strategy development and execution advisory and interim executive firm. Worked with 50 plus companies ranging from startup, early growth stage, small to middle market, private equity, venture capital to Fortune 50. Good morning, Michelle. How are you?
Hi, good morning, everyone. And good morning, Sharifa. How are you?
I am excited to learn more about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so to put it in a nutshell, I help companies grow and expand faster, more profitably than they could on their own. And I help companies get to the next level. The next level means something different for every company. If it's a startup and they have zero revenue or a little bit, the next level is a lot of times getting funding or just kind of getting traction, productizing and going to market. If it's a large company, sometimes it's, entering markets, expanding geographically. If it's a company losing money, sometimes it's restructuring and turning around first and then kind of getting to that next level. Or if it's a small to mid-cap company and they're trying to become, I call it growing out of adolescence and getting into adulthood from a company perspective, then I help them with that as well. So my main expertise is to really help with the growth strategy development, but I take them all the way through execution. So it's very important for me when I'm working with the company to make sure that I'm tailoring what is the right strategy for them, helping to make sure they have a competitive advantage and it's something that they can defend and is sustainable. And then helping them when they do their new market entry and identification, it's not something where they're just running after what's the hot thing, what's the sexy thing, what's the biggest market, the things that are actually going to help them. And then I walk them through it. Fortunately, my background is very diverse in the sense of I started off in finance and accounting, like I am a CPA, And then I shifted over to the strategic side. So when I'm working with companies, I'm making sure that they not only have the revenue acceleration, but that they have the infrastructure in place, the people in place to actually make it happen. You know, I have another, it's not really it's a mini tagline where I say strategies don't belong on a shelf, because so many traditional consultants, of which I was one before, you know, do strategies and companies spend millions of dollars and it's all great. And then it doesn't go anywhere, because a lot of times it was just more hypothesizing versus really making sure that it's applicable to an actual company. And I also wrote a book recently. This is really more for like small to mid-sized companies that may not be able to sometimes not afford consulting services, but then also some of them they can't afford it, but they just fully don't understand. People throw out the word strategy all the time, or you have a growth strategy, you have a strategic plan, you have this, and they really don't know what it is. And honestly, they feel they should have one, but they don't have a clue because they're not as accustomed to them as the big ones. So it's like how to grow and expand your business in times of feast or famine. And it's funny because I wrote it a few years ago and I worked to try to update it given the time we're in now. And honestly, I haven't had to make many updates because even though coronavirus has hit a lot of companies in a lot of different ways harder and more collectively than most, every business and every company has gone through a period, if they've been around long enough, where you've had some kind of, issue that's, the rubber is meeting the road, and you really need to figure out how you're going to grow now because the world has changed or your business model has changed or a competitive threat has come in and things of that nature. So being able to help companies that way, but then also help them with the direct consulting and advisory work is something I've been doing now, 16th year in business, and definitely very appreciative of all the companies and the people, honestly, I've met, because at the end of the day, while I love helping the companies grow, and the bottom line, it's really about the people that I'm working with, whether it's the CEO, the owner, or the leader, or the investor, and the employees as well. Because when companies grow, then people are able to sustain better lives. And that's the way I look at what I do.
I love it. I love it. 16 years. Congratulations. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy.
The 16 months. So the fact that you're in business for 16 years, kudos to you, Michelle.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. It's something I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm still doing this sometimes. Not in a bad way. And I'm like, wow. But yeah, thank you. It has definitely been a journey.
You are so welcome. Now, Michelle, I am going to come back to you. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, the amazing Robin Rosenberg. Robin is the CEO and founder of Live in Their World. Robin is a clinical psychologist and textbook author. She has had both psychotherapy and coaching practices in the San Francisco Bay Area and New York City. She is board certified in clinical psychology by the American Board of Professional Psychology, a fellow of the American Academy of Clinical Psychology, and is an assistant clinical professor at the University of California, San Francisco. Good morning, Robin. How are you?
Good morning, and thanks so much for having me with such amazing co-guests.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, it's great to be here. So what I'm doing now was a bit of a radical switch for me, and having done a lot of executive coaching for startup founders in California, I thought I knew what I was getting into and in becoming and starting a company, but it's about mission and purpose. So what Live in Their World does, it is in part uses virtual reality to address issues of bias and incivility in the workplace and upskill employees for respectful engagement. And what had happened was, the short version is, I had done some research in virtual reality. In 2011 to 13, I was collaborating with a premier academic psychologist who does VR research. And it was when the time that Trayvon Martin was killed. And then there was a spate of murders of Black people by white people, often police officers, often without consequence. And that led to the surge in Black Lives Matter. And that led some white people to say white lives matter or all lives matter. And not that I presume to know the lived experience of being Black in America, but from my work as a psychologist, I'm just someone who had been interested, I thought I knew enough to hypothesize that if we could give people enough of a sense of what that lived experience was, they would understand. And not just understand, but be moved to act. And so I mentioned the idea to a VC that I socialized with who thought it was a great idea, but I had a day job I loved, knew nothing about starting companies. And after Me Too, he contacted me and said they'd like to fund me to do a proof of concept study. Because the most important thing, a lot of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion interventions, not only do they not work to the extent that anyone does research on them, but they can have what's called reactance, where people become more entrenched in their original position. So in essence, they're doing harm rather than not even, having no effect. And so it was really important to me to make sure that we weren't doing harm before we did anything else. And so, in our preliminary research, we got amazing data results, because it's also important to me that we actually move the needle, not just that it feels good. And so so then I leapt in 2 feet, and we've been doing it ever since. It's been an interesting challenge with COVID of how do you do virtual reality when people are working from, in the workplace, when people are working from home. So we expanded our offerings so that people can do it on their cell phones with what's called mobile VR. It's kind of cool. You've never done it. The New York Times has apps. You put your phone in some kind of mobile headset carrier, and you actually have VR or what's called immersive video on your computer, and you don't need anything. So that's been really powerful, because I feel really fortunate. I get to do mission-driven work and really make a difference in people's lives. So I'm very grateful for that.
Wow, very interesting. I am very intrigued by what you had to. You surprised me. I thought we were going into a different direction. I'm like, we're talking psychology, the human mind.
We can talk that. That's fine. We can
no.
go there too.
I'm intrigued. Too late. I'm intrigued already. I want to learn about this. So when you say virtual reality, because I think games. That's kind of what I think of when I think VR. And I've played with the games on the VR. What do you do? Do you give them scenarios? Are they being shown scenarios? And okay.
But the powerful thing, this is sort of marrying, my research background as a psychologist. What we're trying to do is literally put people in, not just in the shoes of, because if you put people in the shoes, it's still their body, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, this is my experience in your situations. That's not what we want. We want the experience of people who are actually in those situations. Okay, so for, Javante's story, which is one of our tracks, is literally putting you in the shoes of Javante and his experience of what it's like in situation after situation after situation. Because any one situation, people are jerks. But what we're trying to show is really the mental load of that cumulative effect. But we also want to upskill everyone into, there are 3 different positions all of us will be in a given work week, right? We're going to be the person who is disrespected. And we call what we do civility training, because ultimately it's about unearned respect, of respect just because. And part of being respectful is understanding where other people are coming from and the impact that our intentions can make, right? Because we can have the best of intentions and they land, they're ultimately are received as disrespectful. Mm-hmm. So we just want you to understand the cumulative toll, but also most importantly, what to do differently, right? Because it's not enough to say, don't do this. The analogy for those of you who have children or nieces and nephews is, it's not enough to give a kid crayons and say, and then they draw on the floor, and you say, don't draw on the floor. You have to say, here's the paper. Here's where we keep the paper. When you want to draw on paper. And so what we're trying to do is also upskill people of what is the right respectful thing to do. And often there are no right answers. Sometimes you have to engage people in hard conversations to understand, because no one, whatever their demographic identity, no one in that group is all the same and has the same, experiences. So it's really kind of also seeing people as individuals and taking them as that as well.
Absolutely. Now, Robin, I want to come back to you, but I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, and she is just simply incredible, Rebecca Weaver. Rebecca Weaver is the founder and CEO of H. Reprise. Did I say that right, Rebecca?
HR Uprise.
You know, see, I got to be smarter than the bio today.
Okay.
HR Uprise, a platform that connects people with HR coaches to help them grow, develop, and navigate their toughest workplace challenges. After 20 years of working in HR roles for Fortune 50 companies to startups on the cutting edge, Rebecca grew disillusioned with just how much is staked in favor of the company, including the role of HR. The HR Uprise platform aims to level the playing field for employees. Good morning, Rebecca. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. And I've never heard it stated that way, that it is stacked in favor of the companies and not in favor of the employees. Tell us how you started on this journey.
Absolutely. Well, for me, after you, as you said in my bio, 20 years of HR, I had worked really hard to build strong relationships with employees. I built a reputation for being known as the person who wasn't afraid to say the tough thing. But it was really in the wake of Me Too, as those conversations emerged a few years ago, that I really started to unpack my own experiences, what I had experienced in the workplace, and understood those in a new way with some new language. But also, I was asking the question, as an HR professional, how much have I been a part of creating this environment for other people? How much have I been a part of this system that has allowed this to happen? And it was that latter conversation that I just didn't see enough of within HR. So I actually launched HR Uprise as an Instagram account. I just found myself with a lot to say, and I launched on Instagram, and it exploded in the very beginning. And it was clear that I had touched a nerve. What's interesting as I was talking, so I called it HR Uprise because I was calling for an uprise within HR. I was talking directly to HR about all the ways that we need to get our act together. And what was interesting is right from the start, I started hearing from non-HR people. And they're reaching out saying, they're asking questions like, I was asked to sign an NDA by HR, what should I know? Or I observed someone being harassed. How can I be a good ally without getting myself in trouble? Or I just found out I make a lot less than my counterparts at work. Is there anything I can do about that? And it was all these questions that I realized that people really need access to independent HR. I think one of the big crux of the issue with HR, there's massive mistrust, and quite frankly, it's well earned in many cases. But I think the crux of the issue is really what I call the double bind within HR, which is that you ask most people what HR's role is, and they would tell you something along the lines of, oh, they're an advocate for employees, they build company culture. And I think all of those things are good intentions with the role of HR. But the reality is HR is an agent for the company. HR's job is to protect the company. And it's that double bind that I think is the problem. So what we've created at HR Uprise is access. Every individual can access directly a coach who has an HR background. So they know how things work behind the scenes at companies, they know how things typically work. And they have direct access to coaches who can help them navigate those challenges. So the magic is that we've removed that obligation to the company and provided all of the resources and information and knowledge, provided that access directly to employees.
I like that. I like that. Rebecca, I'm going to come back to you. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest. And this young gentleman is going to share his story, Mr. Seun Adedeji. Seun is the founder and CEO of Elev8 Cannabis. At 27 years old, Seun is considered the youngest Black dispensary owner in America, with dispensaries in Eugene, Oregon, and Athol, Massachusetts. He will open up in others in Massachusetts by spring 2021. His personal journey and ascension in the cannabis industry have been difficult at times, but he has discovered that all you really need to succeed is love, creativity, and a lot of hustle. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me today. Everyone have an interesting story. I'm looking forward to learning more about what they do, and a little background about myself. I was originally born in Lagos, Nigeria. I migrated to the United States at the age of 5. I lived in Chicago, Illinois. I didn't live in such a wholesome home. I was the kid that was just hustle. I was a kid shuffling snow, raking leaves, whatever it took to really make money. We were not the wealthiest. So I just, at a really early age, I learned taking 100% accountability for what I wanted, just learning from mistakes and failures that I've made, and just really self-reflecting and trying to see how can I better myself and really elevate myself. I was also arrested for marijuana possession at a really early age at 13, which really was life-changing for me. I tell people I've never gotten an ass whooping like I did in my life. Once I got arrested, my parents, funny story, there was just the cops called them to pick me up, and they was just like, nah, he can stay there. He should sleep there. And I was more scared to go home than I was at the police station. I actually felt a lot safer. I felt a lot safer there than I did at home. But it was tough love. Moved to Texas at a really early age. I still, it was really life-changing living with my auntie. She was, first woman that really showed me unconditional love. That was great. But let's go back to, just my business. That was a little background about me. I saw the cannabis industry as an emerging market. I saw a huge opportunity. I had a corporate job, and I just wanted to create generational wealth, not just for myself, but for people that look like me and came from the same background, right? That I came from. I didn't go to college, so I don't have a college degree. So I didn't have networks that a lot of people had to call on to really lean on when they were going to pursue their business. So I had to get really scrappy. I tell people I became the COE. I became the chief of everything. So I became my attorney, my CEO, CFO. And I think a lot of things that really helped me out was a lot of failures. And I was, I wrestled. I was a very competitive athlete, and in the wrestling world is you against another man. Ain't nobody else. You look at that. If you lose, it's you 100%. If you win, it's you 100%. So that mentality just stuck with me. And, I don't blame, even in my company right now, I take 100% accountability for success, failures. Going forward, I slept in my shop for a whole year. I got rejected for 2 years trying to pursue a license. I finally got it. I was underfunded. You need $1 million. I didn't have that. I had $50,000 freaking dollars, and I just refused to look. Everybody's like, you can't do it. It's insane. I was like, look, I am my $1 million. I was messed up. I said, I'm about to do it. I'll hustle you. And everybody just looked at me like this mad. And at the time, I started a journey at 21. I opened my first shop at the age of 23, and in 2017 in Eugene, Oregon. And since then, I just really stuck to our core values. Like, who are we as an organization? Our goal is to treat everyone like gold. We live and we die by our 8 core values. And I failed a lot tremendously as a leader. I failed a lot when I first started at a really early age. I made a lot of really, really mistakes, man, that define who I am, but I didn't let it define me. I just let it elevate me. It became lessons that, that has helped me grow to be a better leader. I'm now at the age of 27. We're a multi-state operator with locations in Massachusetts. We have pending locations in different states. And outside of cannabis, I'm also on the board of NCIA, which is the biggest cannabis lobbying arm. In the cannabis industry. I'm also big into social justice, social equity. So I help states like Illinois and different states come up with creative ways to make sure that we see and we get representations of POCs, into the cannabis industry, Latinx, African Americans, indigenous people, to really have an opportunity to create generational wealth. And to pay for what has happened, reparation with the war on drugs in our communities. Because a lot of times we see our communities and we're like, what's wrong? And we've had a Black president, we've had mayors, we've had police chief. And I tell people, I don't care about that. We need money. Money talks. Bullshit walks. As simplified as I try to make it, we just need the resource to give people hope and give them jobs or become owners.
Absolutely. I love it. Michelle, you've listened to our guests. Everybody on every level is on different stages of their company. So when you hear our guests speak, what are your thoughts?
Well, first, I mean, it's like life. Everyone is at different stages and at different steps. I mean, I love the uniqueness of what everyone's doing in a different perspective. I think there's a need for everything from the technological standpoint, like Robin, what you're doing. And then, I hope I'm saying your name right, Seun?
Yeah.
It's not Sean. Okay, right. And what you're doing in terms of your journey as well. I mean, I think the collective thing that I hear and what has helped me when I've worked with all these different companies and these different industries and these different stages is, understanding and being able to identify the core need. And from an external perspective, okay, what do your customers or potential customers look like they need? What are people telling you? What is the market telling you? But then marrying that with your own unique internal capabilities, right? So that you have these unique skill sets and being able to articulate in a way to connect with people and be able to have your own unique value proposition is something that I love hearing because, like I said, working with 65 companies in 31 different industries, right? And people are like, how did you do that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. If you work with a startup, people think, oh, if you work with startups and early and growth stage companies, how do you work with Fortune 1000 companies or Fortune 100 companies the next day? Like, you're supposed to be segmented in these boxes, like you're supposed to be focused on this one or focused on that. But when you just pull it all back and it's about what's your opportunity, what's the capability, what are the needs that you guys are seeing? And some of you saw realized needs that people know, and some of you are figuring out unrealized needs that people know and seeing where the gaps are in the marketplace and how you can exploit it. I think is really cool. HR, people do HR all the time, right? And people can easily say, oh, well, it's HR, what's the big deal if you're doing something different? Rob, you do the psychology. Okay, what's the difference with that? Angie, you do a lot of coaching and helping CEOs and things like that, from probably, a business perspective, but I'm sure an emotional perspective, because that's part of the game too. Most of the business is more than 50% of the human side, and then seeing what you're doing, there's a ton of people that are in your market. So it's like, someone said to you, okay, how can you go ahead and scale what you've done to make such an impact? It would think like, oh, well, the market's so crowded, everybody's doing it now. And that's the negative side of what collective people say. But I think, what's always great for me to hear, because again, I love business and I love seeing people do these great things, is that again, everyone is doing something in a very unique way, but it's all helping to meet these needs also in a unique way that is making an impact on your existing customers or ways that you can maybe branch out and help others or inspire others based on your story and what you've done. So saying, I don't know how to do jollof rice and pepper soup, even though I know you're from Nigeria, that's a big deal. But I do know a lot of Nigerians that came forth in their journey as well. So, we've all had to overcome our backgrounds and our struggles, but I think it's the important things, regardless of where you came from, your background, it's where you are now and how you can propel your own business and help others along the way, which I always find great.
Yeah, and I think that's beautiful. I think when I first started, my background seemed like it was a crippling force for me. I felt like, I don't have this. And I'm not sure if anybody else felt that way, but I did when I first started. And I think the most important thing I had to get over was stop focusing on what I didn't have and start really focusing what's in my control. Like, this is out of my control. What is in my control? And I started doing tangible, executional steps, like what can I actually execute on? And that's really helped me out in my growth process.
No, I mean, that's really cool. Like when I started off my business, I was 29. And when I say I laugh a lot of times is when I started it, it was really because I wasn't happy where I was at in my job. They wanted to move me into another state. I didn't want to move. I knew I had something to offer. I didn't think I would start doing this until my 40s, But, I just honestly, I said, let me just go out there and see what happens. I mean, that was really my business plan, which I would never recommend to any of my clients. But, it was one of those things where I knew there was needs. And, in my profession, it's a little bit different now, but my profession is traditional, middle-aged to senior white males, Caucasian males, who have had 20, 30 years experience and, have this kind of roadmap that they followed. And so when I first started, there was a lot of people that were like, well, how are you going to get clients? Who's going to trust you to do their stuff? Even though I had done it in all these large companies I worked with, so I had the acumen, and a lot of things that I had to overcome, quite frankly, wasn't the business side. It was like the me side. And so what I learned from my corporate life and working for large firms and companies, it was just like, regardless of what someone's mindset is, you can change that mindset, not by saying anything, honestly, but just being effective, showing up and connecting with them on a personal level. And then once we got to that personal side, I can go from there. But there was a lot of people who didn't see it. But what I did, and what I was recommending people too, is like I had really good mentors and people that had already achieved great success. So I kind of knew some of the roadblocks to come up to beforehand. And I also read a lot and watch a lot of things about like really successful people. Like, I don't know if you guys ever heard on the History Channel, The Men Who Built America, or The Food That Built America. It's really so cool. It talks about like how Rockefeller built his empire, how Carnegie did, how Colonel Sanders, all these different things that we look at today, and it inspires me. Yeah, because a lot of these people, a lot of them almost went bankrupt. Some of them,
Right.
Some of them did all these great things. And so by having those kind of inspirations, it's almost like when you see these roadblocks, you just kind of go over it and then you just move forward. And people use pivot a lot now, but it's not new. You just figure out
Right.
a way to make the thing to help you make, what you want to have happen. So
Absolutely. I definitely agree. You have to keep pivoting. We've been pivoting for years. Angel, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, many things were coming to my mind as I was listening to this amazing talent here. So, I mean, I think that we are all disruptors here at some level, right? I mean, I love this. I love the word disrupting. And I think that we have, not only to Michelle's words, we not only found that need in the market, but we also found those gaps, right? We found those gaps, and we knew we could like close those gaps and doing good. I think that's really, really important, to do good in this world while you're doing what you're doing and while you are providing services or products to someone else, right? And I think that we all at some point we said, why not, right? Why not? So, I mean, I wish I had known what you just said. I mean, a few of you here, it's like, if I had known this like 5 years ago when I left, corporate America, as many of you did here, right? But it's always, what do you do with what you got? And I think that, Seun, I think he described it very well. I mean, that's what he got, and he said, okay, let's move forward. It doesn't matter what I don't know. It doesn't matter who I don't know. The important thing is what I can do with what I have in my hands. But something that was also coming to my mind, besides acknowledging the brightness of you choosing your guests, Sharifa, is, I mean, imagine that just us five, what we could do together, right? Because I think that's something that unfortunately it's not very, how to say, reinforced in corporate America or in the world in general, is to collaborate. And I don't know if you have Sharifa to like a thought about, with these amazing panels I'm organizing every single day, what if we could do something all together, right? And I think that if with that tech that, high tech and psychotherapy and psychology that Robin has, and with Michelle's, amazing, story and strategy skills and everything that she does, and, with the broken HR side that every single company has. Oh my God, as I was listening to her, I would picture myself while, I mean, who didn't picture Robin or Michelle? Didn't you picture on what Rebecca was saying? Like, my HR departments were all the time, like, I thought they were on my side, right? But they really weren't, right? I expected them to be on my side, but they weren't, right? It's kind of crazy. So I would love to collaborate more. I mean, I acknowledge that I don't know much about, cannabis, and cannabis is an amazing industry, and it's growing so fast, and it's taking the world like a storm, really amazing. So that's what's coming to my mind. I think that, learning to collaborate is a great thing that we should be taught in the school. How can we like exchange wealth and collaborate more proactively? to build ventures together. I think that's something that still we haven't figured out properly in this world still.
I agree. I mean, it's one of the things, that's why I put on 2 different expos. I had one expo at in October of last year, then my New Year, New You in January. And it's just bringing people together, bringing the guests together. So I have to come up with more ways for us to collaborate. Now, Robin, what were your thoughts on the conversation, especially when we talk about collaboration? That's part of what you do, even with VR, is how do we get the world to come together and connect?
Absolutely. I think one of the challenges is how to harness the good that relationships can bring. I mean, if anything, the pandemic has shown us how important relationships are, because we're deprived of them in the ways that we used to be. And all of the research has shown from the pandemic has shown that people miss being in the office with their colleagues. I mean, even introverts, we really miss that sense of connection. And in fact, those little micro moments are so powerful, of just being able to look at each other across, when we see another colleague do something silly, all these things are so important to us, and create these weird collaboration opportunities. I mean, architects design work environments so that people who are not from the same team have an opportunity to meet with each other, because you're fomenting ideas across interdisciplinary and different perspectives and backgrounds. And so, I mean, that's part of what this is, this moment in time with you, Sharifa, and everyone else, is just all of what's the commonality. And part of it, what I hear is all of us are committed to learning, right? We're all committed to learning. So when you talked powerfully about learning from mistakes, and I think that's such an important ingredient, that's part of what's called a growth mindset, and sort of really being open and not so judgmental that makes us ashamed to look at mistakes, but really that it's an opportunity. And It sounds like, all of us have looked at the work, our backgrounds and what we've done, and where are the learning opportunities, and found something in ourselves, dug deep to take risks to do something with that, which is terrifying.
It is.
Nonetheless, we did it.
I agree, because it's terrifying to start all these different shows and sit down with executives and CEOs and influencers. You have to have that ability to have a conversation with so many different people. But I enjoy it because it allows other people to learn from our journey. And that's what we're doing here this morning. And Robin, I completely agree, because I always tell people I've been working at home, working virtually for years. But the thing that I missed the most was my coworkers. Because I went to work just to go to lunch, just to see what everybody was doing. What was everybody up to? Who was doing what with who was dating who, I needed that when I went to work. So now at home by myself, I don't have that same camaraderie. So I definitely agree. But the one department that always wants us to focus on the work and not the lunch hour is human resources. Rebecca, you're the guys who come in and say, you're having way too much fun.
Yes. Yes. Unfortunately, that is the reputation of HR. And I think that's the role, unfortunately, is that the cop within, within the company. And I never liked that role. So what's really interesting as I'm listening to all of this, I'm always so fascinated and so inspired to hear kind of the personal journey especially for entrepreneurs, and especially those of us who have left, the corporate job. I mean, part of it is that's part of my role. That's part of my journey. But just hearing from others, and especially those of you who started, Seun and Michelle, starting your business so early, I am so inspired by that. Because it really took until I was in my 40s before I could do the personal kind of take that huge leap and leave what felt very comfortable. You know, and there are lots of reasons for that. But what's really interesting, you know, is just hearing. So part of my personal journey this past year as well is a little over a year ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and
Oh, wow.
I
Sorry to
went
hear that.
through. Thank you. I went through chemotherapy and multiple surgeries and radiation during the pandemic at the same time, you know, having to put my business largely on hold for the greater part of a year. And now that I'm done with active treatment, I'm reflecting a lot on that journey. And so much of it has been about learning to live with fear. And that's something that there's no getting rid of it. You know, I don't believe it when people say I have no fear. Like I just don't think that's realistic. But for me, and again, what I hear in so many of these stories is learning how to deal with it, you know, learning how to live with it. I tell people, like, you know, I'm in the car and like fear gets a seat because like I can't uninvite you. I have learned that you get a seat, but it's in the back seat, and you know, maybe it's in like one of those baby seats that's flipped around backwards so I can't see you from the rear view mirror. You know, what I have learned, the trick is, you know, that fear does not get to drive. And that is ultimately, yes, there's a place for it, but I'm going to continue to forge ahead anyway. But it was that experience that really gave me, honestly, the push to say, okay, so you really don't know how much time you have left. You know, that's the big question over the past year. Okay, so now what? Now what? I mean, how are you going to spend your time? What's the good you're going to do in the world? You know, what's the contribution you want to give to your family, to your community, to society? And so that is ultimately kind of the question that I have every day.
Yeah. Seun, what about you? Do you feel fear? Is there fear? Are you fearless?
I actually I do feel fear. Now, one thing about me is I do MMA, so I just had a fight this Friday, right? So, outside of being an Elev8 Cannabis CEO, I step in the octagon and I fight. And people look at me and it's like, why do you do that? You are insane. And I said, you know, life itself is a freaking fight. 90%, which is mental. Is it a mental fight? When we talk about fear a lot of time is in our head, is assumptions, it's things that we come up with, is like, you know, sometimes when we overthink about what other people might think about us, or we project because of our own life experience and our own path, we kind of come up with biased thought process that because I went through this person might have this conclusion about me, or like people have their own shit going on. Half of them don't even care. They have their own problems. So you think they're focused on you, they're probably focused on themselves and their shit. So I came to the conclusion in life that, you know what? Life is too short. I refuse to sit here and bitch and cry, excuse my language, and just sit here and just be like, oh my God, this sucks. Like Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing your story. Like that is powerful. Like I was sitting there nodding my head. I was like, this woman is a warrior, because life sucks sometimes. Everyone has something going on. There is no one that's invisible. Like I met wealthy people. Some of the richest people I've met in my life are depressed. Like, you know, like are depressed. So I was like, what is this? That's why, like, I tell people I treat everyone like gold. I don't know your story. I can't judge you. I can't, whether white, blue, purple, I don't care. You might have had a hard life, or you had even people with great life had a hard life in some aspect of their lives. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like love, hate, sadness, when you look at those key, like, you know, feelings, when you look at feelings, I feel like everybody has experienced some form of that emotion. So we can sympathize with other human beings. So like for me, I just know that I try to do my business with integrity. When it comes to fear, I am not worried about nobody else. I'm competing against myself. I'm looking at getting 1% more elevated, 1% more better. You have 50 million more dollars than me. Look, I'm happy for you. You richer than me. I'm happy for you. Now I'm going to get back to work because I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to out hustle myself. I'm going to beat myself from yesterday. That's what I do it for, is a competition against myself. And when I look at fear, I'm just like, fear is an illusion to me in so many ways. It's like, why be fearful when who are we scared of? We're scared of our inner greatness. We're scared of taking risks. We're scared of failing, but it's not failing. It's a freaking lesson. We're daring to do things that nobody else is willing to do. We're taking a leap of faith no one else is willing to take. So we're freaking strong. Whether people's like if I fail, I think I'm a badass because I did things that you cannot do. So if somebody tells me you failed, like, yeah, what did you do?
Right.
When did you fail? Like, tell me, like Zig Ziglar is like I listen to him talk. And I think like he says something along the lines of like, don't pray for less problems. Don't pray that you don't have problems. Pray that you have the wisdom to handle the problem. We know life is a freaking season. Life is a season. There's going to be summer, winter, fall, all this stuff. Winter is going to come. I don't care whether you like it or not. It's going to happen. But have you built a solid foundation? So
Yes.
you make sure that once that winter storm, whatever it is, blows, comes your way, you're going to be okay. Like for me, like integrity is big for me. I do good by people, whether you do bad to me. Look, I feel like if you do bad to me, it takes me putting the same energy, say, I'm going to do bad to you too. I don't care about you that much to use my energy to plot against you. I'm too focused on my success.
That's right.
Like that way. I'm sorry, I'm done. But
No, it's okay. I'm like inspired. I want to tune in to your Sunday service, your TED Talk, your podcast, whatever you have next. I will be tuning in. So let us know because you are incredible. Now, even though I enjoyed that and all of our guests, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, my friend Angel.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do this. It's an amazing place to be this morning. I couldn't have picked a better place to be. How mind-blowing. So thank you for allowing me to be here. Just the only thing I would like to say to the audience is maybe where they can find me. My name is Angel RIBO. My last name is spelled RIBO. Very easy. You just send me an email to angel@angelribo.com. And the most important thing I would like to tell everybody, just to remind everybody how amazing they are, the incredible and unstoppable beings that they are, the passion that they have, and they use it wisely. Use it as Seun showed us today. Anything is possible. Anything, absolutely anything is possible. And I'm happy to obviously entertain the idea of going global with anybody. A lot of people, sometimes they get this message of, hey, you should take your business global. You should take your business global. So that's exactly what we do. But regardless, our mission is to help underprivileged kids in Latin America with our foundation, and that's what we do every single day. So thank you. It's been a blessing to be with all of you, Seun, Robin, Michelle, Rebecca, and Sharifa, obviously a blessing. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you for joining us, Angel. I appreciate you. Rebecca, what do you have for us?
Well, I would love to connect. I could have this conversation for hours more. So thank you so much for having me a part of it. I would love to connect. Our business is HR Uprise, HRUPRISE.com. So you can connect with us there. You can connect with me there as well. And, ultimately, I guess what I want to leave people with is, that first of all, it is possible to completely disrupt the ways of thinking. And I think that's something that we should all be doing and thinking about on a daily basis. Both how have I benefited from the systems that exist? And so for me, that's a lot in the workplace. How have I benefited from the systems that exist? How have I also been a part of creating systems that have oppressed others? And I think that is ultimately something we should be doing every single day. So that's ultimately the work that we're trying to do is break that system, at least one of those systems down in the workplace at HR Uprise. But again, thank you so much for having me a part of this conversation.
You are so welcome. Thank you. It is a pleasure. Robin, what do you have for us?
If people want, we have a white paper on best practices in giving and receiving feedback. And so just go to our website, liveintheirworld.com. It should be on the homepage, but it is also on our publications page under Thought Leadership. Under Thought Leadership, the publications page. And so we've got lots and lots of detailed tips about how to give and receive feedback. The other thing that I would say is just to think about the ways that we each can be more respectful toward each other, at work, at home, on the street, in the store. It's incredibly impactful to be treated respectfully, and it's debilitating to be treated disrespectfully.
I completely agree. Thank you for that, Robin. Michelle, what do you have for us?
I would just say again, thank you for also having me on your show today. My company is Elevate Diamond Strategy. It's spelled exactly the way it sounds. The website is www.elevatediamondstrategy.com. The book is my book that I mentioned earlier is How to Grow and Expand Your Business in Times of Feast or Famine. It's a 10-step process to teach you what growth strategy is. For some of you who don't know what it is, and it really just breaks it down as easy as possible in 10 steps so that you have an idea of how you can do it yourself, or if you need help, how you can reach out to get it. I just want to say again, hopefully all your listeners and you guys know how to get to the next level. It's something that we can all do no matter where you're at, no matter where you're starting. And, hopefully I can help some of you accelerate that so you can better your lives and the lives of others.
Michelle, let me just ask you, because I meant to ask you this question earlier. Too often when we need to grow, or you also talk about people who are struggling with their revenue, that's the time when they really need help and expert advice and guidance to be able to get to the next level. Yet that's often the time when they don't, because they feel like, I don't want to use my last resources to hire someone else, or I don't want to waste this money to hire a consultant when I need this money to build my business. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know what, when you're in that situation, you have a choice, right? You usually at some kind of fork in the road and you have to decide, okay, do I want to wither away and fail or do I want to keep fighting? Business is about risk. Life is about risk. But if you really want to do anything great and move forward, you have to take that risk. But a lot of the companies that I did, they were cost cutting until they couldn't cut costs anymore. If they were public, maybe they got pressure from the board. If they were private, they're trying to figure out, what do I want to do? But if you truly know, okay, I don't want to fail, I don't want to give up right now, I want to move forward, then it's not about wasting money. It's about using that to invest it and helping somebody, which is myself, to help you to do something and see things that you can't see. A lot of times when we get to that situation, it's because it's hard to grow a business and run it at the same time. It's hard to focus on all these different things, and you may just be missing some things, or may not have been able to, maybe let's just say capitalize on what you do have in a way that your expertise just from what you've done has not been able to do. You just don't have a different perspective. I would say, like, okay, I'm not a landscaper, right? But if I tried to mow my lawn, the likelihood is it'll take me, let's say, 10 hours to do something they could do in one, and do it more effectively than I could. So I can look at it like, wow, I maybe want to save my $20 or $50, $100, whatever it is. But when I do that, not only do I get whatever I want to get done, it frees me up to do what I'm really good at. And a lot of companies and entrepreneurs, whether you're a single entrepreneur or you have an actual small, mid-sized business, or you're a large company, typically you're very good at whatever it is you're doing, but you just may not be good at everything. And usually when you get stuck, it's because something internal happened to the company, or external, like the market is just changing and you don't know how to change with it. And so all of the companies that I've helped, trust me, they pay me a lot less than the results that they get, or else they wouldn't hire me. Even the ones that have been stuck and I've needed to go and turn around. And it's a difference between, again, failing and losing more money by failing, or taking that investment and being able to do it. You know, one of the other things that I try to do with companies too, if they're strapped, is I may start off in an advisory role so they can keep me like on an hourly basis or a certain set of hours and things like that. And then as they get more, they can retain me for the bigger type of projects and things like that. Others may just have it, they can do it all at once, but I understand what people are and I do try to meet them at their point of need. But yeah, it is still very important if that's what you truly want to do. And that's something I can't decide for anybody or any business owner or company I've worked with. But if you truly want to do, regardless of the situation you're in and you want to fight through, then it's worth the investment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. Seun, go ahead and take us out.
Yeah, hey guys, nothing is given, everything is taken. You can't sit there and expect someone to come and rescue you. It's impossible. You have to take life into your hands and you have to make the best out of what you have. We have the library, we have the internet. If you want to learn something, if you have the will, you can make it happen. And, you know, the biggest thing I've learned in business from my failure, don't take anything personal. You know, it's business, right? So as you negotiate your honeymoon, negotiate your divorce. That's the biggest advice I can give you.
Words to live by. This has been an incredible show. I've had so much fun. I have enjoyed the show. I want to thank all of our guests for being here today, but I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives. Just because you didn't catch the live show does not mean you're not important, and it doesn't mean we don't need your support, because we do. Please go ahead and share the show, but I always ask that you don't just watch the show, that you don't just share the show, but that you support our guests. Our guests are here this morning to share their journeys, their companies, their information, their ideas, their resources, their strategies with you. So please support them. Their website link is in the Facebook post, but as always, please don't just visit their website. Follow them on social media. Reach out to them, send them a message. And when you do, please let them know Sharifa Hardy says hi. Now, if you're interested in more ways that I can help your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit my website at asksharifa.com. Until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.